So the story of our next speaker is one that has always stuck with me ever since my second year of Rotaract when I was new to the St. John's area. So I would love to welcome Emily Benson. So Emily's 31 years old and from Gander, Newfoundland, but she's been living in St. John's for most of her life. She joined what was then the Rotaract Club of Memorial University in 2009, which we touched on a little bit earlier, spending 4 years in the club. 2 of those years, she was the treasurer. So after graduating in 2013 with her bachelor's of nursing, she continued with Rotaract until she joined the the Rotary Club of St. John's East in 2017, where she currently holds a seat on the board of directors as well as the club's foundation. She's currently working as both a registered nurse in the Health Scientist Medical Surgical ICU unit and fitness instructor at Orange Theory Fitness St. John's. Somewhere in between, she enjoys running, dancing, reading, and a bit of red wine. Take it away, Emily. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you. I have gotten 2 opportunities in the last 6 years to travel and deliver polio vaccines. And one thing I get asked all the time is, how does somebody get this kind of opportunity twice? First time, speaking about getting outside of your comfort zone, which is what Christina had kind of touched on, back in 2015 when we had our RILA conference, I was speaking on a panel. Cannot for the life of me remember what the panel was about. But I was sat next to Stella Roy, and she's a past district governor for our district and also a Polio Plus coordinator. So she was there to talk about Polio Plus and kind of her experiences. So we were chit-chatting right before we were about to get started. She was talking about how she was going to go to Nigeria and she was going to deliver her polio vaccines and kind of stuff she was going to do. And I was like, can I come? And she said, yeah, sure, why not? So 6 months later, I am on a plane by myself, headed to Newark to meet 25 people that I didn't know existed, to then travel to Nigeria on this experience. Super wild, literally fell into my lap, but definitely like the best thing to ever happen to me. The second time, I'm about to like low-key throw my club under the bus a little bit, but the president at the time approached me and he said, Emily, I want to do on boots on the ground experience. I want to go deliver polio vaccines. Let's get a group of people together. We'll do our own trip. It's going to be great. Let's go for it. So I called the people and I arranged these dates to go to India. And then a year later, I was on a plane by myself, headed to Newark to meet 25 people that I didn't know existed, and again, travel across the world. I mean, it's definitely a logistical nightmare to try to organize a trip across the world. So I kind of laugh at that. And I'm super grateful that I got to go not once, but twice. Especially now that we literally can't go anywhere, I feel like I was definitely super fortunate. So my first trip took me to Nigeria. I spent almost the whole time in Abuja, which is the city's capital. In this photo, I am vaccinating a 5-6-year-old child. The gentleman standing behind me is actually a Rotaract volunteer. Throughout this trip, it was the Rotaract clubs that got us through. They were the ones that were on the buses at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting us to these places, organizing the kids, pairing us up with healthcare professionals, bringing us back, getting us fed, make sure we made it back to the hotel alive. Like, they did all of the work. And it's because of them actually that we had the experience that we did. So I definitely want to give the Rotaract Club a huge shout out, because that's a lot of work, especially when you got 30 adults from Canada and the United States. That can be really tangling. So when I went, I traveled with Stella and we were led by Ann-Lee Hussey. She's a big name in the polio world. She is known internationally for her work. She's actually a polio survivor herself, and she goes a couple of times a year on these trips, coordinating on international boards, the whole 9 yards. So when you travel with Ann-Lee Hussey to deliver polio vaccines, you are working for 10 days. She needs to get the work done, and she don't care how it gets done. So on our very first day, we went to a public school, pulled up in our DRL bus. We were kind of stopped waiting to get the instruction, kind of chatting. And then we turned around and this was the scene behind us. There was probably 1,000 children, and the kids, like, they keep going around the corner. I don't know how they all fit into this school, but they saw the bus, they got super excited, and they ran up. So we had to vaccinate these kids. And the way that it actually gets done in these countries where they don't have computer charting, they don't have organization, like, it's really hard to track such a vast number of people, especially in a lot of these countries. The purple pinky idea is not just a publicity stunt. It's actually the way that they track their vaccinations. So in my first photo, the volunteer that's there, I can't remember his name, he has a purple Sharpie. And once you deliver the drops on the child's tongue, you take the purple Sharpie, you start right at the bottom knuckle, and you mark right up to the top of the finger. So the ink on the Sharpie will settle into that child's cuticle. So you'll vaccinate them, you'll mark their finger, they'll go on about their business, they'll play, they'll run in the mud, they'll do whatever. But the purple ink stays in the cuticle for up to 2 weeks. So as we were trying to vaccinate these kids, and at one point I was with a healthcare professional in the middle of this group, and the first thing that they do is they check the child's hand. If the child has a purple pinky, they've been vaccinated, they can go about their way. If their pinky is not purple, then they're getting vaccinated. Worst case scenario, they get a double dose, which really, it's an oral vaccine, so it really doesn't matter a whole lot. They would rather somebody get an extra vaccine than none at all. So that's kind of their organization system, which truly blew my mind. We had these kids vaccinated in 3 hours, which is crazy. If you want to ask any healthcare system in Canada to do that, I don't think it'd get done. But anyway, that's another note altogether. Once we visited these public schools, we then, over the next couple of days, we were paired up with these women, these healthcare professionals that walked around neighborhoods. Again, no computer charting. They had these sheets of paper with people's addresses on them. And then they would go to each household. They would highlight how many kids were in the home, whether or not they were home, if they were vaccinated, and just kind of all of that information. Another thing that I feel like I need to say as well about these women is that they are working 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, getting paid about $2 a day. And sometimes they don't get their pay for months. But they're so committed that they just do it day in and day out, and they get paid whatever, whenever, which is amazing, because I did it for 3 days. I was like, Buzz, I'm exhausted. This is crazy. And they just don't care. It's great. So once they go through kind of this paper charting and this organization, they visit the home, and I think there was a couple of children in this home. And then she has some chalk. Well, she'll mark above the door the date, because they do their vaccinations kind of in trips. So the date, how many kids were in the home, how many kids were vaccinated, and whether or not there were any refusals. If there were refusals for the vaccine, then kind of a community leader will come to the home and discuss with the family and convince them to get vaccinated. And because it doesn't rain a whole lot over there, these markings will stay, like we saw some markings from like the vaccination trips 3 months prior. So it's semi-permanent and surprisingly an easy way to kind of keep track of everything. Again, would never work here because the markings outside the houses would last about 3 hours. We also went to some community events, went to a couple of churches, set up some booths, and then the parents would take their kids to these booths if they haven't gotten vaccinated yet, and kind of get it done there. So again, these are 2 healthcare workers that we got to spend the day with. So the blue box that's there, those are the vaccines. That's the vaccine cooler. The box next to it is what the plus in Polio Plus actually stands for. And I didn't know this until I traveled there, but the plus stands for any additional treatment that goes along with the vaccine. Now, a treatment is either like powdered milk or a vitamin. In some countries, it's bug nets, or fruits, anything like that, just any kind of extra supplement that they can give to the kids to take home. You could give the kids anything and they were ecstatic to receive it. Everyone was super grateful to receive anything. What I had seen the most though was the powdered milk, the powdered juices, and that sort of stuff. We also went to some private schools, kind of just to explore, mostly to experience the differences in the educational systems. So the first school we went to was a private school, or sorry, a public school. So you had the thousands of kids in all of these rooms with no doors, like kind of what you would traditionally see when you think of schooling. This was a private school, set up more so like the schools that you would see here. The woman on the left is Gretchen. She is a ton of fun, trying to kind of play a little game with the kids, and she has about 50% participation because there was a dozen of us stood in the room, and I'm sure we were blowing their minds a little bit just by standing there. So that was a really cute experience. Those kids were so fun. They just want to like hang around and follow you around all day. Another really cool thing that we got to do was participate in the delivery of these specialized wheelchairs. So if you take a look, say at this red wheelchair, the way that these are set up, so when you're affected by polio, typically you lose your movement from the waist down. So a lot of these people, actually primarily adults, because they would have missed their vaccinations, they don't have any use of their legs, so they're walking on their hands with sandals on their palms to kind of get from point A to point B. In a lot of these countries, accessibility, they're lacking. So they need a method to get around. So the way that these bicycles are designed, they sit in the seat, the pedals are up top, so they're able to use their hands to kind of go around town. So we spent a couple of hours there. There was 50 or so bicycles. And we would watch people walk with their hands, get up on the wheelchair, and literally pedal off into the distance, which is amazing. There's also numerous repair shops around town that are Rotary funded, where they will actually fix these bicycles for free if something should happen. And they're all made from parts that are easily fixed or easily replaceable. So if something were to happen, they don't lose their bike. They just bring it to this shop, they get repaired, and away they go. So when I was getting ready to go on this trip, the Rotaract Club of, which was still then Memorial University, we did a lot of fundraising, and they raised quite a bit of money actually for me to be able to go. So much so that I had some money left over. These bicycles are about $100 American. So I took the remainder of that money and purchased a bicycle. Now you have an opportunity to get like your club's name on the back. And so then, you know, when you're going around town, like you could go around town and see people on these bikes with all of these clubs from all around the world written on the back. Super cool. So the next photo is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. So I said, I want a bike with Rotaract Club of, it was actually, no, I lied to you. It was Rotaract Club of St. John's, because that's what I wanted on the back of the bike. Super excited. We got there. I ran through all the bikes to try to find mine. And if you're not from here, there is a Rotary Club of St. John's in town that I'm not a member of. And it was Rotaract Club that gave me all of their money. And now the Rotary Club of St. John's is getting all the glory somewhere in Abuja, which is super funny. I don't even think that they know that this exists. I don't think I told them. But anyway, regardless, the sentiment is there. So St. John's is rolling around in Abuja somewhere for some lucky person who has a chance now to mobilize themselves. Another favorite thing about going was the opportunity to attend all these different club meetings. I think between the two trips, I think I attended at least 10 Rotary Club meetings. Every single club wanted to host us. So we have, the gentleman that's next to me has a Rotary Club of St. John's East banner, because Lorraine was generous enough to give me a ton of hers. So now they're floating around, and I have in a box a dozen Rotary banners from all across the world, which is super cool. They were just delighted to have us, to share their stories. You get to hear about what all of these clubs are doing. It's just fantastic. And a lot of these Rotary clubs as well. There was one meeting we went to, the bus parked on the side of the road, and there was just trees around us. So we were like, okay, like this is it. Like, we're dropped off now on a DRL on the side of the road. Like, this is it. We walked through the trees for 10 minutes, and there was this like cabin in the middle of the woods. And we walk in, and it's where one of the Rotaract clubs actually have their meetings. And they had all their tables set up, they had vending machines. It was super cool just to see like the way that all of these clubs have adapted and how strong they are, because they also had like 30 members in each of these meetings, which is great. My trip to India was a little more, I don't want to say fun, but it was a little more like touristy. This was our very first night. I crashed a wedding in the street. Um, we were invited, first of all, we were invited, but we got there and there was a wedding going on and we were all stood there watching. All of a sudden the bridal party had us all hauled in. So we're dancing next to the bride and the groom. It's all live entertainment, lights, the whole 9 yards. So this, I think, is the photo for a few of my friends when I call them on my iPhone. We got to visit the Taj Mahal, which was super cool. This is actually my second trip to the Taj Mahal. And when you go in real life, it does not look real. Like, pictures do not do it justice. It's actually the most incredible place ever. So we got to do some touristy stuff, which was really cool as well. A lot of Bradford Howard is a Rotary member. I believe he is in, I want to say Maine, but I might be making that up, so don't quote me on that. Either way, he is very, very involved in like toilet accessibility, especially for young women. We visited a lot of schools in India. I would say on this trip, I spent 4 hours staring at a toilet with Bradford's plaque attached to it, because he gave so much money to ensure that there was toilets and plumbing in these schools. And I had learned while I was there that a lot of women, once they reach puberty, have to drop out of school because they don't have a bathroom. Which is crazy to me. It's something we totally take advantage, but they don't have anywhere, for lack of a better word, they don't have anywhere to kind of deal with their periods, so they have to drop out of school, which is crazy. So because now they have these toilets, like, young girls were coming up and they were just delighted that they get to stay in school, which is crazy. So that was something I had never really appreciated until then. So these are definitely really, really important experiences, and I was thrilled to be a part of it. We did a lot of touring on this trip. I have a medical background. My background, besides intensive care, is surgery. So this is right up my alley. We were in Delhi, and there is a full polio corrective surgery and rehab unit in this hospital. The physician is a Rotarian, and he actually donates most of his time to corrective surgeries, especially for kids. Super cool. Lorraine, if you're still there, this is going to be the part where I'm going to cry and then you're going to cry, and it's all downhill from here.
Oh, really? Is that going to happen?
Every time I talk about polio, I start to cry, and then every time I speak in Lorraine's direction, she starts to cry. So, so we got to actually visit these wards, which was probably the coolest day of my life. Because my background is in surgery, I had to get my hands in on it. This is a 10-year-old boy who had lost the use of his legs to polio. So they went in and they basically reshaped their bones, because when you're developing and you don't have the use of your lower body, you of course get developmental issues, deformities in the legs. They will then try to kind of break the bones and reshape them so that then they can be fitted for prosthetics, or they have to be amputated altogether. This young man ended up getting his legs reshaped, which is excellent. So he'll have a couple of weeks now to heal, and then he'll get his prosthetics, and then he'll be walking around. I was really into kind of how they care for these. So this is a nurse on the unit, and I got a little bit nosy, but they were very welcoming of me, so it was all good. And these wards, it was about 20 people, I think, that were either post-op or they were pre-op waiting to get their surgeries. And again, a lot of this was a volunteer kind of job. In addition to that, we went to some prosthetic clinics. Because again, even though this was in 2019, accessibility is definitely lacking in a lot of these areas. So a lot of times, again, it's fine and dandy to recover from polio, but if you can't mobilize yourself, then it's very challenging to be a productive member of society. In this again is a Rotary funded initiative. This is a prosthetics clinic where anybody can come from anywhere in India, pay $25, and you're fitted for a prosthetic. A prosthetic in the Western world would be thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And a lot of the funding now over this way, of course, they're definitely it's a different quality. There's not a lot of technology behind it. It's kind of the bare bones of prosthetics, but they're getting fitted and they're getting made and they're getting these. Sometimes if they can't afford to pay, they're getting these prosthetics for free. So we got to go through and watch the production from start to finish. We went into their labs where they're working on a lot of technology. And one of the main developers for the prosthetics is actually a polio survivor himself and was wearing his own prosthetics, which I thought was absolutely incredible. And these people, like we were walking through, 30 of us, walking through gawking at everybody, and every single person that was getting fitted was so thrilled to show off their new limbs. It was really, really humbling just to kind of watch. Like this gentleman, like as soon as he saw us, just hopped up and hauled up his pant leg and was like showing off his new leg. And we watched somebody get fitted and just stand up and started to learn to walk. Just like that. Like the motivation was there. Somebody was helping him go through. Like he probably a few days after that left that institution and literally walked away. The schools were borderline overwhelming about polio eradication. So this was the Rotary Club of Delhi Uptown and the Interact Club of the DAV Public School held this polio eradication carnival. We sat there for 2 hours and kids were coming from other schools from that school doing skits and singing songs and writing poems all about polio eradication. And they were chanting, and like all of the kids watching knew this song about eradicating polio. Everybody was just super excited to be able to participate in the eradication of this disease, which is very, very refreshing. Especially considering like some of the things that are kind of going on today, like just to see whole communities truly committed to eradicating polio was amazing. If I could show you 80,000 pictures of the kids, I would, but I would run out of time. And again, Rotary Club meetings. I went to, on this trip, every night of the week was a Rotary meeting. So I definitely went to 6, maybe 7. This was my favorite club, the Rotary Club of Jaipur, because it's a female-only club. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's the only female-only club in the world, which in India, in anywhere is a big deal. In India, super big deal. Just to watch all of these women and all the projects, they're focusing primarily on healthy babies, on women's health, clean water, education, kind of the whole 9 yards. It's a very, their focus was very niche, but they were doing a lot of work, and it's a lot of work that sometimes doesn't get done. So also got to vaccinate a baby. Now, the first time I probably vaccinated 300 people, because in Nigeria at the time, they needed a lot of help. They needed the bodies, they needed vaccinations in these children. In India, they have we kind of led the horse to water, and now they're drinking on their own. They had their own systems, they had their own clinics. A lot of the children were organized in a similar way that we're organized to do vaccinations. So we were kind of the guests there, and it was an opportunity to deliver a few vaccines, but they were so used to what we were doing that the mass vaccinations kind of didn't really need to happen, but that is absolutely excellent to see. India, I think, has been polio free now for a number of years. And Nigeria, just after I left, I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. Just after I left, they had a little bit of a blip where they had a kind of a hotspot, a little bit of an outbreak, and they are now polio free as well. So it's only Pakistan and Afghanistan that are left that are really needing like these big mass efforts to kind of get them on the ground. And you can imagine the reasons why these are the 2 remaining countries. There have been a lot of issues with safety, accessing pockets of populations, and a lot of political issues are involved there as well. I'm not as good as Christina. I didn't time myself. I've either spoken for 1.5 minutes or 27. Not really sure. So I kind of want to open this up actually to questions. And if you guys want to kind of have a little bit of discussion, I know there's so much that I could say. In both of the places that I went, these kinds of posters are literally everywhere. So here we go. When we're making these donations, when we're making these donations and we're doing these projects and having these fundraisers, this is what's happening. And we don't see it, but it's happening. Sorry, Lorraine.
Oh no, stop it.
I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen just super quickly. Where is my, how do I do this? Okay. All right, if anybody has any questions, I'm here for it.
So clearly I'm going to start because this is what I do. Emily is basically my stepdaughter because she has weaseled her way into my life. But like, are you in contact with anyone in Nigeria or India?
Yeah. I'm still in Facebook contact with a number of the road directors in Nigeria. So I do get occasional updates kind of on what they're doing. They're still very much like 110% committed to the polio eradication. And then still doing, there's a lot of like eye clinics going on, clean water projects going on, like they're still super involved, and they're also seeing what we were doing as well. If I ever share a Rotary post and there's a name you totally don't recognize that likes my status, that is one of the road directors from Nigeria.
Oh wow. So not Nigeria's we're connected to.
Mostly, yeah. India, just because the group that we had gone with was more of like it was a travel company turned polio project. We were more self-directed, and it was more Rotary Club leaders that were like in direct contacts for us. So we were a little bit more independent in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Emily, if somebody wanted to get involved with something like this, do they have to be a nurse? Like, where's the best place that somebody could look to like participate in a trip like this?
It was sheer coincidence that I happened to be a nurse doing it. The vaccine is 2 drops on the tongue. If you can hold a bottle dropper, you can deliver the vaccines. It's super easy. Anybody can do it. If you do want to get involved, honestly, the easiest person I think to contact at this point would be Stella Roy. Obviously, the travel right now was halted, and it is a little bit tricky. The India trip that I had gone to was going to be one of the last India trips because they're basically kind of done and independent. They don't really need us anymore. So I'm not really sure what opportunities are going to come up in the next couple of years, but Stella Roy has been kind of my main contact person, and she set me up with Bradford Howard as well to go on the India trip.
That's great. So if anyone wants to get involved, it's Stella Roy.
Yeah. I don't have her email on me, but she's super prominent in this district. She's a member of the Halifax Harborside Club.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to say something that time too, and I can't remember what it was.
Emily, I'm just wondering, like, can you still like purchase a bike to put your club's name on it if that's something a club was interested in doing?
I'm not 100% sure, because the only reason why I had that kind of fell into my lap was just because Anne Lee had said that this was an option. I gave her my money, and then she kind of organized it. But I can find out if you would like.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that's something we would definitely love to do for our club, just to kind of give back, because I think it'd be a great movement for us to get involved in other Rotaract clubs too, to be able to kind of, say we're making a difference.
Yeah, and it's super, it's, you just kind of send them the money and then it happens. So Chantal, can you just private message me your email really quick, and then I can find out for you?
Yeah,
and
sounds good.
Thank you so much for dropping off that email there, Stella. Or not Stella, sorry, Holly. Again, reading and talking at the same time when you're post night shift doesn't work out.
No, that is wonderful. And yeah, thanks again, Holly, for putting that email there. I got it written down, and that's something that we should be able to distribute for everyone who was here. If anyone wants to get involved, which I'm sure a lot of people do.
It's honestly, it's super fun. And even if we can't travel, I mean, there's so many things aside from just paying for the vaccines. So I think, yeah, I think it would be a really, really good opportunity. If you ever have any questions or anything about it, because it's been 3 years now since I've kind of traveled with them, but like, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I remember what I was going to say. When I went with Anne-Lee Hussey, I was the first Rotaract to ever travel with her, which was super cool. It had always been Rotarians. I was the first Rotaractor, and they kind of treated me a little bit like a celebrity because I was the first one and I was only like 21 years old. So I was basically a baby in their eyes, and it was lovely. It was great. It was an
Blazing the trail.
Yeah, right?
No, that's awesome. I didn't know that your story has really stuck with me, and I'm so excited that you went back a second time, which I had not realized when we first contacted you.
Yeah.
So it's great that it was good enough that you went back for more. And I'm with Lorraine. I'm the crier as well. So I'm glad that you didn't break down, because then this would have been a very different conversation.
I would go again in a heartbeat. But I am a little bit hesitant traveling to Pakistan and Afghanistan. My mother would probably not let me go, even though I am 31 years old. But if an opportunity ever arose in any of the other countries where it was a little bit safer to travel, like in a second, like I would probably quit my job to go.
I'm glad that it was that good of an experience. Thank you so much for taking some time to come and see us today. I know you're in between night shifts, so we really, really appreciate it. Just an awesome message.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah.